I think I'm about to fail. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So before we get started, when I'm done with this, anybody else who wants to go up and talk, more than welcome to, because we're not doing this like professionally. There's no schedule, just whatever, because that's how Mom was too. Once again, and far too soon, we find ourselves in the same spot, saying farewell to someone who is gone from our lives before their time. I would like to thank everyone who took the time to be here today, everyone who donated hard-earned money to help my sister, Stephanie. I was pointing at the wrong person. I thought you were going to sit over here. And Stephanie and I lay our mother, your friend, Jane Salan, to rest. Mom. Jane Salan. Jane Irvin Salan. Jane was a beautiful girl who grew into a beautiful woman from a little place in southern Illinois called Paris. You can imagine how much fun that must have been, telling people she was from Paris. No need to toss in the state at the end, just let them assume she's from someplace they can only dream of going. Born June 25th, exactly 6 months away from Christmas, which she would always tell you, 1953, Jane was the younger of two children. Her parents were a former Marine and World War II vet and a school teacher. While my grandfather had a civilian job after the war, he was always a Marine, and he raised Mom and her brother in that sort of mental framework. They loved their father, but Mom and her brother both bristled under his rule, and she couldn't wait to get out and live her own life. Drawn to the beach by the Beach Boys, and to Daytona Beach specifically by the Allman Brothers, Mom left Paris as soon as she was done with dental school. Well, Terre Haute, whatever. Soon after, she met our father, fell in love, and the rest, as they say, is history. Before all of that, however, Jane and her brother Jeff lost their mother to cancer when they were just children. Old enough to remember her, but still young enough to really feel the loss. Later, our grandfather would marry the woman I know as Grandma. Incidentally, she had the same first name as the woman who gave birth to Jane and Jeff, Patricia. And yes, some of you who did not know might have just noticed that both her brother and her husband were named Jeff. She must have really loved our dad, because I just don't think I could marry a Stephanie. And she has clearly avoided Tim's, which is a fantastic choice. Jeff Irvin, star athlete and the person my mother grew up in the shadow of, followed his dad into the Marines and served in Vietnam. After starting a family, his wife would also pass away in the 90s from cancer. Uncle Jeff unfortunately passed away last year. We are here today because an insidious cancer has taken Jane away from us. Coming so close on the heels of Dad's death, the initial assumption might have been a case of broken heart syndrome. And that might have played a role. But let there be no doubt, smoking was the #1 contributing factor to my mother's early death. Many of you gathered here know the story. In the hospital for an unrelated issue, a scan revealed a mass in her lungs. A biopsy on December 12th, my sister's birthday, revealed the worst. Stage 4 metastatic lung cancer. She took the news well, shut down anyone who came to her crying. She wasn't going to give up and would brook no such talk from everyone around her. She and I even discussed going on a cruise together in the spring after she had been in treatment for cancer for some time. Alas, that was not to be. Christmas night marked her return to the hospital, and the news was devastating. The cancer had spread to much of her body. To help keep her comfortable, she was moved to hospice on New Year's Day, because apparently holidays were a thing for her. I will always be grateful to the people there at hospice, as she was alert and out of pain by the end of that first night, and she and I got to watch our college football team win their bowl game. Less than 3 weeks later, she was gone. Mom had been surrounded by friends and family every single day that she was in hospice. We kept her company so thoroughly that several nurses complained that we were occupying too much of her time. I think I just shrugged and said, too bad. Many people knew Jane Salan very well, as she made friends for life. Many more people knew her professionally. Only 2 of us knew her as a mother. I'll be honest with you, it was easier to write a eulogy for my dad. He lived such an interesting life that the only real challenge I had was choosing what to leave out. But Mom was just Mom. On the surface, that's pretty boring. But every parent out there, including Stephanie now, knows there's so much more to the title of mother than can be quantified or even written about. However, I will try to tell you about the Jane Salan you might not have known. My mother, not my father, taught me to love football. My mother, not my father, taught me to love hockey. As an extension, my mother, not my father, taught me to swear. I'm sure it was not on purpose. My father was the family cook, but my mother cooked the special meals. Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthday cakes, family breakfast when Stephanie and I were adults, but still managed to get home for weekly breakfast. And circling back to the swearing, I used to say that the food was only going to be good once she started cursing at every little thing that went wrong in the kitchen. It was a family joke, but a reliable one. Now, I know I run the risk of painting her to be a female Joe Sixpack, watching sports in her underwear and swearing at the TV, but nothing could be further from the truth. My mother was always put together well. You couldn't say that she cleaned up nicely because she was always cleaned up at all times. And as for the swearing, well, let's just say that at 40, I still wasn't comfortable using colorful language around my mom. She just wasn't the type of lady you cursed in front of. The respect she received from people just seemed right. Which is why she was so effective at getting her way whenever she wanted it. She was a customer service rep's worst nightmare. And I am so glad that I learned that fortitude from her. I'm actually surprised she never made anyone quit their job. She was as sweet as her famous pies until you didn't hold your end of a bargain up. And then that other side came out, and she would just not back down until she got what she felt she rightly deserved. Stephanie's pager comes to mind. Back when pagers were a thing. Sometimes she would just finish with a completely sincere thank you and a beautiful white smile as the kid behind the counter stood shaking. In a word, she was savage, and it made me love her all the more. That smile of hers. That one, right there. Like I said, she was a dental hygienist. Thank you, Dr. C. So lovely teeth came with the job. What none of you had to deal with were the guerrilla tactics she employed on me, and to a lesser extent, Stephanie, as I was growing up to ensure my own dental health. Sometimes I would come home from school and there would be a note on the table letting me know she was out or what time we were having dinner, or whatever. And sometimes there were high-resolution printouts of diseased gums and blackened teeth. No warning or explanation. They were just left there for me to find, to haunt my dreams for decades to come. Obviously, it still bothers me. Oddly, it took me years just to stop looking at whatever was left out for me. My father was defined by who he was, what he did, and the impact he had on the world around him. My mother was defined by her family. She was the glue that held us together, sometimes almost suffocatingly, but always with the best of intentions. The moment she gave birth to me, she never went back to work full-time. Even after Stephanie and I were grown and didn't need mom at home to greet us after school, she was there anyway. The influence she had on my sister and me is so all-encompassing that I can't do it justice here today. She was an aspiring crazy cat lady, even from a young age. As a result, Stephanie and I are animal lovers who cry at the thought of mistreated animals. We both have cats, and neither of us can imagine life without them. Our biological grandmother was an English teacher, and it was important to Mom that we learn to love books and reading. And it's a good thing she did. Stephanie and I are both avid readers, and I have written and self-published 2 novels, with many more in the works. My last novel was dedicated to my father, and my next one will be for Mom. I don't have any children, but Stephanie has a baby who is drinking coffee. I was just about to talk about how great Mom you are, but all right. I looked down, she's sucking on the straw. All right. So, okay.
Keep her quiet.
No,
Yeah, whatever works. Because caffeine, that's what children need. All right. Here, bless that. I told you this wasn't going to be professionally done. All right. So I don't have any children. Stephanie has a baby who Mom got to know. And my sister is turning out to be one heck of a mother to Zoe. Hi, Zoe. Which comes from Mom always being there for us. I get to use some of that as well, since I will get to be the fun uncle, or funkle. Stephanie and I would not be the people we are today if not for Jane Salan. Yes, that's a cliche, and it's a true one for everyone, but I am quite proud of the people we have become. We both care about others, we both love animals, we both won't let anyone walk on us, we both are well-read and educated, we both understand that family is important, and we both know how to swear well. My mother was a rare combination of homemaker and working mother. She and my father had a great and full life together, and it saddens me that both of them were not able to live long enough to reap the rewards of the work they put into life. While Dad was taken by a tragic accident, Mom's death seems all the more tragic because it could have been avoided. At the risk of taking on a preaching tone here, and there is no soapbox, I want to discuss the absolute stupidity of smoking in this day, when so much is known about the dangers. Mom used to say that she would rather have a limb cut off than give up smoking. We would laugh because it was funny. But right now, as I face the rest of my life without my mother, I sure wish she had chosen to lose that limb. I implore each of you here today who smokes to consider the impact your death will have on those close to you, those who love you, those who have to live in a world without you. I know that it's easy to put off till later, to say, oh, that's not me, my family has a history of battling cancer. Easy to point the finger at the celebrity who lives to 100 smoking a cigar each day. Easy to minimize it with the rationale that we will die anyway. So what's the point? The point is this: today, right now, we are here in this place at this time only because my mother smoked cigarettes for nearly the entirety of her life. Please think of the people you love, the people you interact with daily, the possible good works you might, the hell with not crying, right? The possible good works you might do tomorrow or 10 years down the road. Now imagine this is your funeral instead, and that your son or daughter or significant other is up here giving your eulogy. I will miss my mother for the rest of my life. I am thankful that there was nothing left unsaid between us, and it made me very happy to hear from her that she had felt she lived a full life. That is all any of us can ask for, to die with no regrets, no unfulfilled wishes. The only sadness in her life was living without my father. So while I mourn for my own loss, I can come visit them whenever I have something to tell them, which, based on my visits to Dad's grave, is fairly often. On behalf of Stephanie and myself, thank you all for coming today. I'd like to open the spotlight up for anyone who'd like to speak, to tell a story of Mom or the impact she had on your life. Thank you.